Commander Lee Hanna pressed her palm against the cold metal of the observation window. Below her, Earth spun slowly in its ancient dance, blue and green and beautiful. But the beauty was marred by the sleek gray ships that moved like sharks through the space around her homeworld, the Galactic Federation. Patrol vessels were a constant reminder of humanity's place in the universe. They were not partners. They were not equals. They were pets, kept on a leash that grew tighter with each passing year. Hannah had been born into this world, raised with the stories of the Peace of Centauri. Her grandmother used to tell her about the time before the treaty, when humans had first reached for the stars, only to find them occupied by beings far older and more powerful than themselves. The Velkari Empire had nearly ended humanity's story before it truly began. Their weapons could turn planets to glass. Their ships moved faster than human minds could comprehend. Then the Federation had arrived, offering salvation, the Council of 7 ancient species who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years would protect Earth from the Velkari. All humanity had to do was accept certain limitations. No military expansion beyond the home system. No weapons research beyond approved levels. No colonies without Federation approval. It had seemed like a gift from the gods. Now, 127 years later, Hannah wondered if her species had traded death for something worse. Commander Lieutenant Parkman Ho's voice broke through her thoughts. The young officer approached with careful steps, holding a datapad like it contained explosives. The latest reports from the outer colonies. Hannah took the pad and scrolled through the numbers. New Sol Colony had been struggling for months. Food production was down despite perfect weather and soil conditions. Medical supplies that should have arrived weeks ago were stuck in bureaucratic delays. Manufacturing equipment was failing at rates that defied probability. It's not just New Sol, Minho said quietly. I've been comparing reports from all 17 human settlements. The pattern is the same everywhere. Hannah looked up from the data. What kind of pattern? Failures that happen at just the right time to cause maximum disruption, supply delays. That creates shortages exactly when they're needed most. It's like someone is testing how much pressure we can take before we break. The thought sent ice through Hannah's veins. She had suspected something was wrong for months, but seeing it laid out in cold numbers made it real. Show me the communication intercepts. Minho glanced around the observation deck, making sure they were alone. We picked up another transmission. Last night, source unknown, but definitely human origin. It was sent to Council space. The Council is supposed to route all communications through Federation channels, Hannah said. Why would anyone be sending messages directly?
That's what it
worries me, Commander. The message was encrypted, but our cryptography team managed to decode part of it. It contained detailed information about our colony supply levels, population statistics, and defensive capabilities. Hannah felt the blood drain from her face. Someone was feeding information about human settlements directly to the Council of 7, bypassing all Federation protocols. The same council that viewed humanity as nothing more than useful animals to be managed and controlled. How long has this been going on? At least 6 months that we can prove? Maybe longer? Hannah turned back to the window, watching the Federation. Patrol ships moved through their precise formations. She had always assumed they were there to protect Earth from external threats. Now she wondered if they were there to keep humanity contained. The Council of 7 were not evil in any way humans could understand. Were simply old. So ancient that they had forgotten what it meant to struggle or fear or dream of something better. To them, younger species were resources to be cultivated and harvested when needed. They had done it before with other civilizations, guiding their development until they were useful, then using them for whatever purpose served the greater good of the galaxy. But if someone was secretly reporting on human activities, if the mysterious failures plaguing their colonies were actually tests, then humanity was being prepared for something. The question was what? Sir, Minho said carefully, there's something else. The decoded message mentioned something called Phase 3 implementation. We haven't been able to figure out what that means. Hannah closed her eyes. Phase 3 suggested there had been previous phases, earlier stages of whatever plan was being carried out. The supply shortages, the equipment failures, the careful monitoring of human responses. It was all part of something larger. We need more information, she decided. What up a secure meeting with Intelligence Division? I want to know everything. They have on these communications? Yes, Commander. Oh. As Minho left to carry out her orders, Hannah remained at the window. The Federation ships continued their patrol, their presence now feeling less like protection and more like a cage. Humanity had traded their freedom for safety, but it seemed they had received neither. The stars beyond Earth's atmosphere held secrets that humanity said was not allowed to know. But Hannah had a feeling they were about to learn them anyway, whether the Council of Seven wanted them to or not. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, full of beings who saw humans as nothing more than tools to be used. But tools could sometimes surprise their users, especially when they discovered they were being sharpened for a purpose they had never agreed to serve. The elevator descended, deep into the earth beneath Seoul, carrying President Kim Jong-soo toward a truth that would shatter everything she believed about humanity's place in the galaxy. The bunker complex had been built during the early days of Federation membership, designed to protect Earth's leadership from threats that might come from the stars. Now it seemed those threats had been living among them all along. The briefing room was filled with the most senior military officers and scientists on Earth. Their faces were grim as they studied the data that Commander Lee Hannah had risked everything to gather. The evidence was spread across multiple screens, each one showing a piece of a puzzle that formed a picture of betrayal so complete it took Jisoo's breath away. Dr. Yoon Tae-young stood at the front of the room, his usually steady hand shaking as he pointed to the biological analysis results. The crop diseases on New Seoul, the medical emergencies on Mars Station, even the equipment failures in the asteroid mines. None of them are natural, he said. Every single incident shows signs of deliberate engineering. The doctor's voice grew stronger as he explained the science behind the discovery. The genetic markers in the crop disease are artificial. Someone created this virus specifically to target the rice strains we use in our colonies. The medical emergencies all involve toxins that don't exist naturally but can be synthesized in any advanced laboratory. The equipment failures follow patterns that suggest remote sabotage. General Nam Gyu-won, his face marked by scars from humanity's first contact wars, leaned forward in his chair. Dr. Yoon's analysis confirms what our intelligence teams have discovered, through other means. The Council of Seven has been running experiments on our colonies for at least 2 years. They're testing our responses to stress, measuring how we react to shortages and emergencies. But why? Jisoo asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. 'Cause they're preparing us for war, General Nem replied. Our sources in the outer systems have intercepted communications about something called the Hegemony Alliance. It's a group of younger species that have banded together to challenge the Council's authority. The Council needs troops for the coming conflict, and they've decided that humans are expendable enough to use as frontline forces. The room fell into stunned silence. For 127 years, humanity had believed they were protected members of a peaceful galactic community. The Federation had been presented as a union of equals, working together for the good of all species. The truth was far different and far more terrible. They've been preparing us like livestock, Commander Hannah said quietly, testing our endurance, our loyalty, our willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. When the war comes, they'll send us to die first, while they stay safe behind their shields. President Jisoo felt sick. Every human who had died in the colony disasters, every family that had suffered through the manufactured crises, every person who had trusted in the Federation's protection, they had all been pawns in a game they didn't even know was being played. We have to expose this, she decided. The Federation Assembly needs to know what the Council is doing. The other species won't stand for this kind of manipulation. 3 weeks later, Jisoo stood in the Great Hall of the Federation Assembly. On the neutral world of Haven, representatives from 47 different species filled the chamber, their various forms and technologies creating a rainbow of alien diversity. She had come here with hope, believing that truth and justice would prevail once the evidence was presented. The presentation took 2 hours. Jisoo showed the biological analysis, the communication intercepts, the pattern of artificial disasters. Across human space, She spoke passionately about the betrayal of trust, the violation of Federation principles, the murder of innocent civilians in the name of military preparation. The response was swift and brutal. The Velkari ambassador, his translator device rendering his clicks and whistles into cold human words, dismissed the evidence as paranoid fantasy. Humans demonstrate their inherent paranoia and aggression, he declared. Perhaps closer supervision is required to prevent them from destabilizing the Federation with these wild accusations. One by one, the other species representatives echoed similar sentiments. Some seemed genuinely convinced that humanity was imagining threats where none existed. Others appeared to already know the truth, but were too afraid of the Council to speak against them. A few looked sympathetic but remained silent, unwilling to risk their own positions for the sake of one species. The final vote was overwhelming. Not only did the Assembly reject humanity's evidence, but they also passed a resolution calling for increased monitoring of human activities to prevent future destabilizing incidents. Jisoo returned to Earth in defeat, but the Council's response to her accusations was still to come. 2 days after the Assembly vote, the research station on Titan exploded in a burst of nuclear fire that could be seen from Earth's surface. 2,000 humans died instantly, including some of the finest scientists and researchers in human space. Commander Hannah was on the observation deck when the news came through. Younger brother Yemen had been working on Titan, studying alien biology in the hope of finding ways to help human colonies adapt to hostile environments. He had been one of the first to die when the reactor overloaded. The Council's investigators arrived within hours. Their ships appearing was suspicious. Speed for beings who had supposedly been caught off guard by the disaster. Their conclusion was immediate and final. Human terrorists had sabotaged the station as part of a plot against Federation authority. As punishment for harboring such extremists, Earth was ordered to surrender its defense fleet immediately. Standing in the cemetery where her brother was buried, Hannah made a promise that would echo across the galaxy. The Council had made a mistake in showing their true nature. They had revealed themselves as the enemies they had always been. And now humanity would respond in kind. The signal began at exactly noon, Earth's Standard Time. Across every human settlement, every colony, every mining station, and research outpost, the same transmission crackled to life on frequencies that had been silent for decades. In homes and workplaces, in schools and hospitals, humans stopped what they were doing to listen to their president's voice. Kim Joo-soo sat in a simple chair in a room that looked like any government office. But beneath the ordinary appearance lay technology that the aliens had never suspected existed. The transmission was being broadcast simultaneously from hundreds of hidden relay stations, each one disguised as routine mining equipment or communication arrays. My fellow humans, Jisoo began, her voice steady and calm despite the magnitude of what she was about to announce. For 127 years, we have lived under the protection of the Galactic Federation. We believed we were junior partners in a peaceful community of species. Today, we learned the truth. On colonies throughout human space, families gathered around their screens. Workers put down their tools. Children stopped playing in the streets. Something in the president's tone told them that everything was about to change. The Federation has betrayed our trust. The Council of Seven has used us as test subjects, manipulating our colonies, causing artificial disasters, preparing us to die in their wars. The attack on Titan was not terrorism, it was murder, designed to force us into complete submission. Admiral Lee Hannah stood on the bridge of the warship Inchin's Revenge, watching as her president's words sparked the greatest deception in human history. Around her, the bridge crew worked at stations that looked almost normal, but every system had been secretly upgraded with technology that would have shocked their alien overseers. Therefore, Jisoo continued, I am announcing humanity's complete withdrawal from all Federation treaties and agreements. We reject their authority. We deny their claims of protection. We choose freedom over safety, independence over servitude. Project Prometheus is now active. The moment those words were spoken, the Sol system began to transform. Asteroids that had been mined for decades suddenly opened like flowers, revealing massive construction bays hidden within. Space stations that had appeared to be simple communication relays extended weapon arrays and shield generators. Cargo ships throughout the system dropped their disguised hulls to reveal warships beneath. Captain Sunho looked up from his tactical display, his eyes wide with amazement, even though he had known this day would come. Admiral, all Prometheus fleets are reporting ready status. We have 237 ships of the line, fully crewed and armed. The numbers represented 50 years of careful planning and incredible sacrifice. While the aliens watched human expansion with casual attention, assuming they were seeing the growth of a primitive mining and manufacturing economy, they had actually been witnessing the construction of the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Every Federation technology that humans had been allowed to use had been taken apart, studied, and improved upon. The aliens had given them basic shield generators, so humans had learned to make better ones. They had provided simple, faster-than-light drives, so humans had built engines that could outrun anything in the Federation fleet.
Ow.
They had shared basic weapon designs, so humans had created guns that could punch through any alien armor. "Sir," another officer called from the communications station, "we're receiving confirmation from all hidden bases. Mars shipyard is online. Europa facility is ready. The asteroid belt construction sites are operational. Total fleet strength is actually higher than projected." Hannah smiled for the first time since her brother's death. The aliens had made the same mistake that conquerors throughout history had made. They had underestimated the people they sought to control. They had seen humans as simple, primitive beings who could be managed with a few basic restrictions and regular demonstrations of superior power. They had never imagined that humans could lie so completely for so long about such important things. They had never suspected that the species they dismissed as useful animals had been planning their own liberation for half a century. "Begin Phase 1, Hannah commanded. "All ships target the Council monitoring stations within 50 light-years of Earth. Fire on my mark." Across human space, warships that had been hiding in asteroid fields and behind moons suddenly powered up their weapons and engaged their faster-than-light drives. The alien monitoring stations that had been watching human activities for over a century never saw the attacks coming. The Council's surveillance post at Wolf 359 simply vanished in a flash of nuclear fire. The listening station in the Alpha Centauri system was torn apart by missiles that struck faster than their shields could respond. Station after station disappeared from the galactic communication network as human ships struck with precision and overwhelming force. "All targets destroyed, Admiral," Captain O reported. "No survivors detected." The message was clear and unmistakable.
Ow.
For 127 years, humanity had accepted being watched, cataloged, and controlled by their alien protectors. Those days were over. The species that had been treated like livestock had revealed their true nature. They were predators. And they had been preparing for this moment since the day they signed their first treaty. Within an hour, the Council of Seven received reports from across their territory. The humans had struck simultaneously at dozens of targets, destroying facilities that had been considered completely secure. Their weapons were more advanced than anything in the Federation arsenal. Their tactics were ruthless and effective. Council had demanded humanity's surrender after the Titan incident. Instead, they had received a declaration of war from a species they had never taken seriously. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans decided they had nothing left to lose. The war began at dawn, on 47 worlds simultaneously. Fleet Admiral Lee Hanna had learned from studying every conflict in galactic history, and what she discovered was that the aliens fought like gentlemen. They announced their intentions, followed ancient rules of engagement, treated war as a form of elaborate diplomacy with weapons. Humans had no interest in being gentlemen. The first targets were not military bases or weapon factories. Instead, human ships struck at the power stations that kept alien cities running, the communication networks that connected their worlds, and the manufacturing centers that produced everything from food to medicine. Within hours, entire star systems found themselves cut off from the galaxy, their populations alive but helpless. On the Council emergency session broadcast from their hidden stronghold, The Valkyrie High Commander's frustration was clear even through the translation devices. "We cannot predict their movements," he complained to the assembled leaders. "They strike at civilian targets, avoid direct confrontation with our fleets, and disappear before we can respond. This is not warfare, this is terrorism." But the Valkyrie commander was wrong. This was warfare, just not the kind that civilized species practiced. For 1,000 years, galactic conflicts had followed established patterns. Armies met in space, exchanged fire according to ancient protocols, and eventually one side surrendered when losses became too great. Wars were won by superior technology and careful strategy. General Shin Yuna understood the difference as she coordinated the human assault from her command vessel deep in the asteroid belt. She had spent years studying alien military doctrine, learning their weaknesses and blind spots. "They fight wars like sports," she explained to her staff during a planning session. "There are rules, referees, and agreed-upon victory conditions. We're not playing their sport, we're fighting for our lives." The key to the human strategy was mobility and unpredictability. While alien fleets gathered for massive confrontations, human ships scattered across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. They appeared without warning, struck hard at unexpected targets, vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. Captain Ko Do-yeon's raid on the Zirathi shipyard at Wolf 359 changed everything. The Zirathi were master shipbuilders, their vessels considered the finest in the galaxy. When Do-yeon's squadron arrived, the aliens expected either a quick destruction of the facility or a brief battle that would end in human retreat. Instead, the humans did something unprecedented. They captured the shipyard intact, taking the alien workers prisoner, but keeping them alive and functional. Within days, human engineers were working alongside captured Zirathi technicians, learning their manufacturing techniques and adapting them for human use. Sir Do-yeon reported to General Shin during a secure transmission. "We've successfully integrated human weapon systems into Zirathi hull designs. The test vessel is ready for combat trials." The first hybrid ship was a revelation. Combined Zirathi engineering excellence with human tactical innovations. It's creating a vessel that was faster, more heavily armed, and more survivable than anything either species had produced alone. But more importantly, it proved that humans could not only steal alien technology, but improve upon it. The psychological impact on the Council species was devastating. For millennia, they had maintained their dominance through technological superiority. Their weapons were better, their ships were faster, their defenses were stronger. The very idea that a younger species could match and exceed their capabilities was almost incomprehensible. But humans did more than match alien technology, they perverted it. Where alien weapons were designed for clean, efficient kills, humans added features that caused terror and confusion. Where alien ships were built for honorable combat, humans modified them for stealth and surprise attacks. Where alien defenses were created to withstand direct assault, humans found ways to bypass them entirely. The turning point came when human forces captured a Valkyrie communication center and used it to broadcast propaganda throughout enemy territory. The message was simple but effective. Any alien world that surrendered would be treated with mercy, while those that continued to resist would face the full fury of human warfare. The response was immediate and dramatic. 3 entire council member species announced their withdrawal from the war within a single week. The ancient Thraxian Empire, which had ruled 100 worlds for 2,000 years, simply vanished overnight as their leadership fled to neutral space. The Calarian Confederacy disbanded itself rather than face human retaliation. By the middle of the second year, the Federation was falling apart. Member species were choosing sides based not on ideology or ancient alliances, but on simple survival calculations. Those who joined the humans found themselves protected by the most effective military force in the galaxy. Those who opposed them faced destruction. The Zirathi Admiral Kethmer, once considered the greatest military mind of his generation, transmitted his surrender from the bridge of his flagship as human ships surrounded his fleet. "We do not understand your way of war," he he said through the translation system. You fight without honor, without mercy, without the traditions that have governed civilized conflict for 1,000 years. General Shin's response was broadcast across the galaxy. Honor is a luxury for those who have choices. We fight to survive, and we will use any means necessary to ensure our species continues to exist. If that makes us uncivilized in your eyes, so be it. At least, we will be alive to hear your complaints. The war was far from over, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The species that had been dismissed as primitive animals had proven they were apex predators. The galaxy would belong to those who were willing to do whatever it took to win. The smoke still rose from the ruins of the Council's greatest fortress on Kepler. Prima's Fleet Admiral Lee Hanna walked through what had once been the most powerful structure in the galaxy. The massive towers that had stood for 3,000 years were now broken stone and twisted metal. The halls where the Council of Seven had made decisions affecting billions of lives were silent, except for the wind blowing through. Shattered windows. Hanna stopped at what had been the central command chamber, where holographic displays had once shown the status of every world in Federation space. Now there was only rubble, and the fading glow of emergency lights running on backup power. Through the destroyed walls, she could see the last Velkari transport ships fleeing toward the edge of the galaxy. Carrying the survivors of a war they had never expected to lose, Colonel Beak Minji approached carefully, her boots crunching on broken glass and debris. She carried a data pad with the final reports that would close the book on the greatest conflict in galactic history. Admiral, she said, her voice quiet in the ruins, I have the final casualty numbers. Hanna turned from the window where she had been watching the alien ships disappear into the darkness between stars. Tell me, human losses. 400,000 military personnel killed or wounded. Civilian casualties were minimal thanks to our defensive strategies. Minji paused, checking her numbers again as if she couldn't believe them herself. Alien losses are significantly higher, approximately 40 million military casualties across all species. Civilian deaths are estimated at 15 million. The numbers told the entire story of the war. The aliens had expected a conflict, fought according to their ancient rules, with limited casualties and negotiated settlements. They had prepared for the kind of civilized warfare they had practiced for centuries. Instead, they had faced total war from a species that understood survival meant complete victory or complete destruction. Hanna nodded slowly. The disparity in losses wasn't accidental. Human forces had fought with a desperation and ruthlessness that their enemies couldn't match. Every human soldier knew that defeat meant not just death, but the end of their entire species. The aliens had been fighting to maintain their comfortable dominance. Humans had been fighting to exist. A holographic display flickered to life in the corner of the ruined chamber, showing President Kim Ji-soo broadcasting from the new government center on Mars. Earth's old capital had been too symbolic of humanity's former servitude. The red planet, terraformed by human sweat and ingenuity, better represented what they had become. Citizens of the galaxy, Jisoo began. Her image transmitted to every world that had communication systems still functioning. The war is over. The Terran hegemony extends an offer of membership to all former Federation worlds.
Ow.
Those species and governments that choose peaceful coexistence will find us to be fair but firm partners. Those who choose continued hostility will discover that they share the fate of the Council. The message was simple and clear. Humanity was now the dominant power in the galaxy, but they were offering a choice to their former oppressors. Submit peacefully and be treated with the respect the Federation had never shown to humans, or resist and face the same destruction that had befallen the Council worlds. Most chose peace. The few that didn't became examples for the others. Hanna left the ruins of the command center and walked to the observation deck of her flagship, the massive vessel that had been built in secret during the long years of preparation for this war. For through the reinforced windows, she could see the stars that now flew under human protection. Each point of light represented worlds where billions of beings were learning what it meant to live under a new kind of rule. The galaxy was vast, containing species and civilizations that had existed for thousands of years before humans had even learned to make fire. Many of them had never known freedom from the Council's control, had never imagined that the ancient order could be challenged, much less destroyed. Now they would discover what human protection meant. It wouldn't be the false security of servitude that the Federation had offered. Humans remembered too well what that felt like. Instead, it would be genuine safety that came from having guardians who understood the true price of peace and were willing to pay it. Commander Park Min-ho, who had served as her aide since the early days of the investigation that started everything, joined her at the viewport. He had been promoted several times during the war, earning his rank through competence and courage rather than political connections. "Admiral," he said, "long-range sensors are detecting something unusual. Signals from beyond the galactic edge." What? Turned to look at him. "What kind of signals?" "The analysis teams think it might be the council members who fled during the final battles. But there's something else mixed in with their transmissions. Something much stronger and more complex. Our experts believe there might be civilizations out there that we've never encountered." Hannah smiled, but there was no humor in the expression. It was the cold smile of a predator who had just learned about new prey. "Let them come," she said quietly. "The galaxy has learned what happens when humans are pushed too far. Whatever is waiting in the darkness between stars will learn the same lesson." She looked back out at the stars, each one representing a world now under human control. The age of human dominance had begun, and it would continue as long as her species had the will to fight for it. The Council of Seven had made the mistake of believing that humans could be used and discarded. It had learned the price of that error. Now something else was coming from the void beyond the galaxy. Anna almost hoped they would be hostile. Humanity had proven they were very good at teaching lessons to those who threatened them.